There is a question with 3 different answers, and all 3 are technically correct. What was the first electric car recall? Most people who know the story give the same answer. General Motors, the EV1, the car the company built, leased, took back, and destroyed. It is one of the most famous acts in automotive history, a working electric car crushed by the company that made it. It is also not a recall. The real first electric car recall is a fire almost no one remembers, and the recall that started the era we actually live in belonged to a company most people had never heard of at the time. 3 answers, 3 completely different stories about what a recall is. Start with the one everybody gets wrong. In the late 1990s, General Motors built something the industry was not ready for. The EV1, a purpose-built electric car, not a converted gas model. Teardrop shape, aerodynamic, genuinely fast for its size. California had a problem. Its air was the worst in the country, worse at the time than the other 49 states combined. So the state passed a mandate. 2% of every large automaker's sales had to be zero emission by 1998, rising to 10% by 2003. For a company the size of GM, that was not optional. Comply, or lose the ability to sell cars in the largest market in America. So GM built the EV1 to comply. The engineering partner was the man who had designed the first human-powered aircraft to cross the English Channel. The car was shaped like the aircraft, to slip through air with as little drag as possible. It was never sold, only leased in California and Arizona for around $400 to $600 a month. Just over 1,100 were ever made. The people who leased them loved them. Waiting lists grew. Then the mandate weakened, and the reason for the EV1 to exist disappeared. It did not weaken on its own. An alliance of major automakers took the California regulation to court. The rules were loosened. Compliance could now be met with other kinds of low-emission vehicles, not just pure electrics. The legal pressure worked. The requirement that forced the EV1 into existence was gone. GM ran the numbers. The car lost money on every lease. Parts were expensive. The company decided electric vehicles were an unprofitable niche. In 2003, GM stopped renewing the leases and began taking the cars back. Owners were not allowed to buy them. GM cited parts, service, and liability. Here is the part that turned a business decision into a legend. At least 58 lessees sent GM checks, $22,000 in total. They offered to take full responsibility for maintenance, to sign away GM's liability, to keep the cars at their own risk. GM returned the checks. The cars were taken to the desert. About 40 went to museums and universities, with their electric powertrains deliberately disabled so they could never drive again. The rest were crushed. Honda had leased a similar electric car to its own customers. Faced with the same moment, Honda extended the leases. GM crushed its fleet. It became the story of the company that killed the electric car. But look closely at what happened. GM did not recall those cars for a safety defect. It reclaimed leased property and destroyed it because the business case was gone. That is not a recall. It is the most famous thing people call a recall that never was. So if crushing the EV1 was not a recall, what was the first one? It was the same car, just 3 years earlier and for a completely different reason. March 2000. General Motors filed a recall with the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration for the EV1. 489 vehicles. The defect was in the charge port, the part you plug into. Under certain conditions, it could overheat while charging, and it could catch fire. Read that again. The first electric car recall in American history was a charging fire. In the year 2000, before most people had ever seen an electric car, the exact problem that still makes headlines today was already on a federal recall notice. The remedy was unusual. GM did not repair the cars. It bought them back. 2 more EV1 recalls followed within months. One for interior lights that could stay on while driving. One for a charging component that could arc and start a fire. 3 recalls on a car with a total production of 1,100 units. The most recalled thing about the EV1 was never the crushing. It was the fires nobody talks about. The EV1 recalls closed a chapter. The next one opened the era we live in now. 2008. A startup in California put a battery and an electric motor into the body of a Lotus sports car and called it the Roadster. The company was Tesla. At the time, it was not a household name. It was a risky bet that had delivered only a few hundred cars. May 2009. Tesla filed its first recall. 345 Roadsters. The problem was mechanical, and it was simple. The bolts holding the rear hub flange had been under-torqued at the factory. They could loosen. That would degrade handling and produce a noise. The fix was a torque wrench. Tighten the bolts to specification. Done. A year later, the second recall told a different story. October 2010. A low-voltage cable near the front wheel could rub against the edge of a carbon fiber panel. Over time, it could wear through, short circuit, and arc. Tesla launched that recall after one car. A single vehicle where the cable had chafed and caused smoke behind the headlamp. The remedy was a protective sleeve over the wire. Notice the pattern already forming. A cable wearing against carbon fiber near the front wheel. A physical thing in a physical place, fixed with a physical part. It is worth understanding why the material mattered. Carbon fiber is prized because it is light and strong, but its edges can be sharp and hard. A wire routed against one, vibrating for thousands of miles, can be slowly cut through. It was the kind of defect that had existed for as long as cars had wiring. The electric part was almost incidental. At that point, Tesla had delivered around 1,300 Roadsters in total. A recall still meant hundreds of cars, and something you could hold in your hand. That was about to change completely. For most of automotive history, a recall meant a physical thing, a part that was wrong, a component that had to be replaced. Then the car became a computer, and the defect moved inside the software. December 2023. Tesla recalled just over 2 million vehicles. Not for a broken part, for the way autopilot worked. A years-long federal investigation had concluded that Tesla's system for keeping drivers attentive was not enough to prevent what the agency called foreseeable misuse. 2 million cars. At the time, the largest recall in Tesla's history. And the fix was not a wrench. It was a software update. This is the mechanism that changed everything. A modern Tesla is connected to the internet, the same way a phone is. When a fix is ready, the company pushes it to the entire fleet at once. The car downloads it, usually overnight, usually while parked. It installs itself. In the morning, the defect is gone. No dealer, no appointment, no part, no owner action. Sometimes no notification the owner would even notice. The defect was code, the remedy was code, and the delivery was invisible. Earlier that same year, another recall had covered around 360,000 cars running full self-driving, because the system could misbehave at intersections and did not always follow speed limits. The name says full self-driving. The recall existed because it could not be trusted to do exactly that. The car that drove itself had to be recalled for how it drove itself. 2 months later, Tesla set a record, and it was over something almost impossible to believe. February 2024, 2,193,869 vehicles. Nearly every Tesla on American roads. Model S, Model 3, Model X, Model Y, and the brand new Cybertruck. The defect was a font size. The warning lights for the brake, park, and anti-lock brake systems were displayed in text that was too small. below the federal minimum of about 3 millimeters. That minimum is not arbitrary. Federal Safety Standard number 135 sets it, because a warning light has one job: to be seen and understood instantly, in a moment of danger, by a driver who may have a fraction of a second to react. The rule also requires the warning to contrast with its background, and for one of the two colors to be red. Every detail of that light is regulated, down to the millimeter, because it can be the difference between stopping and not stopping. The concern was real. A warning you cannot read quickly is a warning that does not work. But the cause was the size of some letters on a screen. The agency did not find it after a crash. It found it during a routine compliance audit. There were no reported injuries, no collisions tied to it, and the fix arrived over the air, overnight, while the cars sat in driveways. Most owners never lifted a finger. This is where the language breaks down. By law, the agency has to call this a recall, the same word used for exploding fuel tanks and failing brakes, applied to a font, corrected by a download. The head of Tesla publicly argued the term no longer fit and asked regulators to change it. 2.2 million cars recalled, and nothing physical was ever touched. It would be easy to think this is a Tesla story. It is not. Every electric car maker has arrived at the same place, because they all built the same kind of machine, a computer with wheels. Take the Chevrolet Bolt. General Motors recalled it for a battery defect that could cause a fire. The root cause was found deep inside the battery cells, a torn internal tab and a folded separator. When both flaws appeared in the same cell, it could short circuit internally and overheat. Owners were told, in the meantime, not to charge the car indoors overnight and not to park it inside right after charging. A brand new electric car, and the interim safety instruction was to keep it away from your house. Then came the part that rhymes with everything else. GM's remedy relied on diagnostic software that was supposed to detect a failing battery before it caught fire. And GM had to issue another recall because that software had been installed incorrectly on some cars. A recall to fix the software that was meant to catch the defect from the first recall. Ford recalled the F-150 Lightning, its electric truck, for battery cells that could short circuit and catch fire. The interim instruction was to charge it only to 80% until it could be repaired. Ford also recalled the Lightning, the Mustang Mach-E, and others because the park function could fail and let the vehicle roll away. That fix was delivered over the air. Rivian recalled its trucks and SUVs more than once. One recall was for a grounding connection that could cause a sudden loss of power. Another was pure software. Its cars were fixed the same day the problem was found, remotely, before most owners knew anything was wrong. Different companies, different defects, the same pattern every time. Batteries that can burn, software that governs safety, and fixes that increasingly arrive through the air instead of through a wrench. Tesla is not the exception. Tesla is just the clearest example of what every electric car has become. The font recall was not an exception. It was the new normal arriving. 2 months after it, Tesla recalled the Cybertruck, 3,800 trucks. The accelerator pedal had a decorative pad on its surface. Under hard pressure, that pad could slide off and wedge the pedal down. A stuck accelerator in the newest, most talked about vehicle the company had ever built. There was a safeguard. Tesla's system cuts engine power when you press the brake, even if the accelerator is held down, so the car could be stopped. But a pedal physically jammed to the floor, in traffic, is exactly the kind of failure the entire modern safety system was built to prevent, and no download could fix it. A technician had to rework the pedal. It was a reminder that hardware defects had not gone away. They now simply shared the schedule with software ones. By December of that year, Tesla recalled around 700,000 cars over a tire pressure warning light. It was the company's 15th recall in a single year. 15 recalls in 12 months, some fixed by a technician, most fixed by a download the owner never noticed. The word recall now covered both and meant almost nothing on its own. Go back to where this started. 2009. A recall meant 345 cars and a torque wrench, a person in a garage tightening a bolt. 2024. A recall meant 2.2 million cars and a font corrected while their owners slept. The same word, 15 years apart, two completely different events. The electric car did not just change what was under the hood, it changed what a recall is. For 60 years, a recall meant the same thing. Something was physically wrong with the machine, and someone had to physically fix it. It started in 1966, when the government first gained the power to force a manufacturer to repair what it had built. Exploding fuel tanks, failing brakes, steering that could break in your hands. Every one of them, a physical object, repaired by a physical person. The electric car broke that definition in two. Now the defect can be a line of code. The repair can arrive over the air, and the owner may never know it happened at all. There is a strange consequence hidden in that. When a fix is invisible and effortless, a company can issue far more of them. The number of recalls goes up, the headlines get worse, and yet, for the owner, the actual burden goes down to nothing. A record number of recalls and a car that has never been safer or easier to fix. Both true at once. Which raises a question the law has not answered yet. When the fix downloads overnight and nothing is ever touched and you never even notice, is it still a recall? Or is it something we do not have a word for yet? Machine and myth. Look under the steel.